Hey Boris, good morning, my friend. How you doing?
Good morning. All right, and you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks, man. Not too bad at all. New week. Let's get it going
New
again.
week.
Yeah, where to start? So it wasn't a bad week. It was more of a patient week, everyone. I feel like we all used the DXY really, really well, using correlation from other pairs, using the DXY as confluence. It worked well. And sometimes, like I explained on Friday, sometimes taking a loss can be a good loss, especially if it's a trade that you genuinely want to take. You've been waiting to take it. You wait for the confluence, you start to build up a picture, bias why to take it. You simply manage a risk, and it is what it is, right? Sometimes that is trading. Nothing is always as clear cut as we would like it to be, but nevertheless, a new week will get going. So the DXY, funny enough, price stopped perfectly at the weekly 50 MA, which it's not too bad. I'm happy it's in an area of confluence already where we can already have that bias for the week. So wherever price goes above that weekly 50 MA, I of course will be looking for the rejection to use that 50 EMA as a confluence to take price down on the DXY. We still have a tiny bit of market gap to be filled. You can see that on the daily, you can see that on the 4 hour time frame as well. That price, for whatever reason, just isn't filling that gap. So giving us really some bias. Also, you can already put in your journal if you're using if you've got a section like myself, when you have a pair that you're trading, your confluence element of your journal, you can screenshot the DXY in terms of looking to short a cross pair, is that you have confluence, although that the DXY is at that weekly 50 MA, we've got a whole week to reject it. So it may not be looking to reject it now. We have that confluence for the week, but what you can say is, of course, there is a gap toward the upside, hence why you'd be looking for a little bit more of DXY bullishness to step into the market to potentially fill that gap. And then you have to ask yourself, well, why can I be looking to take potential shorts later on, let's say, or in use of would be a better way to put it. The DXY is well above the weekly 50 MA. We can see, and above the market gap, we can see areas based on the daily time frame where price may want to turn around. So you've got a nice clear daily order block there. Why that one is a question that's always asked. Well, there was a previous daily order block in this area before, and that order block is now mitigated, and price has moved away from it. Therefore, I don't really expect price to want to come back up there for the reason of order block selection, unless we've got a nice refined area, which you can see right up at the highs. You've got a 4 hour order block, and then the confluence for taking that 4 hour order block, of course, we've got that wick to the high. So that's on the weekly time frame. So the DXY is not in a bad place. I mean, we can go either of which way, and it's just what we're getting very, very good at doing is just understanding when is the DXY ready. So is the DXY ready yet based on the 15-minute time frame? I'd say not quite. Not quite. We always, I mentioned on Monday, it's a bit of a tentative start, and I can understand why some traders don't trade on Monday. I'm not that type of trader to not trade on a Monday myself. However, you can kind of understand why, because we're waiting for the market to find its feet. If we look at price action now, we say, yeah, of course, the DXY is very bullish. However, the DXY, or rather our market, has only been open a short amount of time at the moment. So we can't yet come to the conclusion that we are still bullish intraday, but certainly until we start to break those structure points in the market, then we must lead with that previous history. So at the moment, very much so bullish outset on the DXY. Be happy to look to use a DXY either way, which also means on the cross pairs, I'm also happy to trade either direction, so long as the setup makes sense, paired with then the entry criteria. I'm not too bothered because you can see where we can reject the DXY. You can see reasons why we might well look to go slightly higher on the DXY. So what I'm going to do is just put in this order block here and now for us to have a look at that when price arrives. That is pretty much my key structure point. Let's put that slightly bigger for you guys, and then you can understand why. So basic elements of price action and structure. We had a higher high, higher low, and a higher high has been created by somewhere around this point. So you can take that two ways. You can say, well, a higher high is created from here, Or you can do a little bit better, which in my opinion for a Monday would be slightly more aggressive by saying, well, actually, Charles, the most recent high came from this area. So when in doubt, that's why I've got a structure point here, and I've got a key structure point just here as well. So I'd be happy to consider any position so long as we start to break these areas. And then, of course, the worst case scenario when we don't break any areas and we simply come back up to the highs. And you guys know once if we, for example, came up to this area here, no order block there for a start. So you already know what I'm going to be saying. But it's always the worst case scenario when you don't get any structure point broken. Price comes back, and this applies on any pair. Price comes back to an area where you can say, well, we have had a move from there, but that move hasn't done anything. But then you go to the charts and you see that, well, actually, it looks good for a potential, let's say here, a short position. Then the first thing I'll be looking to do is, can the DXY allow me to create a 15-minute order block? That's my foundation always, yeah, and that will never change. So 15-minute order block first and foremost, and then on the DXY is particularly relevant for that cherry on top of the cake. Have price come back to the area, seek if you can find a 5-minute or well, you have the 15-minute order block, but once then you get that little intricate 1 minute break of structure as well, then seek to find if you can locate a 1 minute order block from this area. Say, for example, then you'll get a bearish engulfing candle. I'll be straight away looking then to short the DXY, which would mean, okay, potentially my cross pairs are looking good for a long based on DXY weakness. So that's the outset at the moment. Of course, then, if price wants to come and break these structure points, but actually pull down into this area, another looking, that's why either way for me on the DXY, I'm going to have to get rid of that alert already. But that's why DXY for me, any direction, because I can locate that price, of course, has moved from this area. So then, of course, if price comes into this area, I can then be slightly more aggressive because I already have a 15-minute order block that I'm looking to take a position from anyway, let's say on the DXY. So therefore, I may not want to wait for a bullish engulfing candle to then create me a 15-minute order block towards the upside. What I can do, however, is on the way down, locate price action and structure on the 1 or the 5-minute time frame, or even the 15. There's no problem to do that. Then wait for price to break that structure point, let's say on the 1 minute, come back into a 1 minute order block. Then you may well look for a 1 minute bullish engulfing candle, and then off you go. So either way for me on the DXY, at the moment, better case scenario, of course, we break structure, come back, then give us a 15-minute bearish engulfing, look for the short DXY, or if it just breaks structure altogether, comes down into this area, then it's something along those lines that I'll be looking to take. So nothing new, same as always, rinse and repeat. And that's what keeps us profitable. I promise you all that. So that's the DXY, pretty much a quick rundown on that. I think it's pretty much self-explanatory. Down at the lows, of course, there as a result of that bullish intent coming out of the market that, let's face it, we all forecasted weeks in advance. It didn't really give us any real form of pullback. So in terms of order block selection to the lows, it's pretty much a bit of guesswork. You've got right down at the lows, of course, down by that weekly order block. We are still within that area. There's a daily, well, we're not within that area, but there is a daily order block available within that area. So if price gets down to those lows, then of course we'll have a different conversation. But in the immediacy, looking for that on the 15-minute time frame. And then there is a 4 hour order block here that, again, it is pretty much in the middle of nowhere, I must admit. However, what we have is price making a low, no lower high for that lower low continuation. And then we've had a push up. So on that push, it's up to us to try and isolate some areas. It's quite difficult. Of course, down at the lows is the best one. These ones in the immediacy are more of the trickier ones, where we would of course need to wait for that confirmation first and foremost, in my opinion, before looking to go long. But you could already see that the shorts have got great targets, rejecting weekly 50 MA, targets down to daily and 4 hour 50 MA, where of course price would be looking to reject toward the upside. And then of course that's when these order blocks start to make sense. So we'll talk about that as and when it plays out. But at the moment, let's see if we break structure, pull back, or just break structure into an area, look for a long. So that's the DXY. GCAD, right. You have to bear with me, team, because I haven't looked at these since I marked them up as always. So GCAD, daily time, excuse me, weekly time frame. So there is a weekly order block here. I'm not going to put it on the chart. It's going to clog it up. But you can see last week's bearish engulfing candle took out a month of price action, left us with a weekly order block. It's massive. So of course, looking around the weekly 50 MA, we have to be mindful then that with it from the weekly 50 MA pretty much all the way back up to that wick imbalance is a order block to the downside. But that's fine. We'll take that as well, as it is, I suppose. But what we have in immediacy to the lows, no weekly order block supporting price towards the upside. That wick imbalance for me is not big enough to really call it a wick imbalance, particularly because price it just closed in the middle anyway. Then what we have to the lows, daily, nothing on the daily time frame either. It's more on the 4 hour time frame where it starts to make sense. So certainly looking at this as last week, of course, we can see that we were bearish, but that becomes a difficulty with smart money concepts because we're bearish always into an order block looking to take price in the opposite direction. So price then has this 4 hour order block. Let's make it slightly bigger for us all. 4 hour order block down at the lows, of course, expecting potential reaction from that. Price actually hasn't tapped into that 4 hour order block just yet anyway. Nevertheless, we're not going to be trading from a 4 hour order block. So if price is ready at the moment, I'd be quite surprised. However, we are getting that move off the weekly 50 made DXY. So I have to see how that starts to play into it. However, what we've had is just a simple bearish slam to the downside with no real immediate structure points that we can look for a short continuation on the 4 hour. But we'll go to the 15 to see if that is possible. Of course, up at the highs, best case scenario, we're knowing that weekly order block to take price down. Refine, we've got a 4 hour order block. Didn't see a daily order block. Ah, yeah, there is a daily order block. Let's put that on there. For sure, we need that. Okay, cool. So within that daily order block we see here, then of course refined for. So again, like on the DXY, we see it down at the lows is a really easy position to start manipulating based on all of the 50 EMAs. So definitely GCAD shorts for at some point in this week for me is going to be a real high probable short position based on the EMAs. So we'll just have to see how that plays. But anyway, what we're more inclined to look at is long positions to see if those make sense. So we haven't tapped into that 4 hour order block yet. Now, down at the lows of that 4 hour order block, of course, we do have a refined area on the 15. Hold your eyes for a moment as I scroll to the left to see where, if there is anything better. Okay, so there is that big 15-minute order block. Let's refine that, make sure it's nice and accurate, ready for the week ahead. Cool. What I'm going to do first and foremost is put an alert right there so I don't miss that. Right, now we know the 4 hour time frame. We know the 50-minute time frame is reacting above that 15-minute order block. So what I'm going to do, I just want to find out why. So we've got that nice wick here. Just going to want to put that on. Not that I'm going to be looking to take a position from here, but I just want to see what's going on because let's say we get price moving in a direction towards the upside from this area, we're going to have to react at some point, right? If you want to, of course, you can wait for the better area. However, if you want to start reacting from areas, and of course you can as well, only if it makes sense. So price hasn't even come into that area just yet anyway. So again, I'm going to put an alert there. It's not an order block, so I'm going to need to see a lot to happen from the area for me to actually be interested in taking a position from that area anyway. But it's just there as a bit of confluence to help us understand, well, if price comes into this area, there could well be a reaction because of that wick imbalance to the low there. Just want to see as well where does that line up on the 4 hour? It really doesn't, to be quite honest. So that is just 15-minute only. So 4 hour order block looking to take price slightly higher. Let's have a look to understand why we've come to that assumption. So price made a high here, came back into the area, higher low, higher high. Excuse me. So of course, price comes back, look for the reaction. It makes great sense. So yeah, just really want price to actually dip into that 4 hour order block. That would make that the better sense. And I just want to see if I've drawn that correctly because I don't like seeing a reaction just prior the order block. But GCAD, we know when we do get into a nice GCAD or a UCAD position, more often than not, as you can see, price does fly. So I don't want to be missing that. And let's take this as it is, that this is older price action. Of course, if that 4 hour candle closes bullish as it's looking now, I'm going to look to react to that. And this is what I'll be looking to do is place a 4 hour order block just there and start the process from a brand new week. It would make sense, right? So we'll put that globally like so. Hopefully we're fine within that area. Then we'll have also a 15-minute order block to look to work with, and then we'll start the process all over again. So as I said, a lot of rinse and repeat. I'm sure you guys, well, Boris, I'm sure is tired of hearing the same thing over and over again, but that's just what we do, right? So, in terms of the shorts, we know the shorts make sense based on intraday perspective, but what we've spoken about already is, of course, that's older price action. Would I be interested in an Asia range position first and foremost out of the bat? So let's have a look. We made a low from here. Price came back up. Well, here didn't make a lower low. So here was the true lower high before a lower low continuation. Have we broken structure points to the left? Yes, we have. Can I locate a 15-minute order block that actually contributed to that break of structure? And I'm going to place that right there, like so. So certainly one to consider. I like the fact it's by the structure point. That makes sense for me. I like the fact that this Asia has already been filled, so that's already protected. I also like the fact that in terms of stop loss placement, it's very easy. I mean, of course, Asia range positions are very, what would be the word? Aggressive positions. You're already going off 50-minute structure, 50-minute price action, 1 minute break of structure, and you're looking to fill Asia. But sometimes, as we're seeing in the market, when the market is moving without real clear pullbacks on the higher time frames, what we can seek to identify is what the 15 minutes do. And hence why I started to incorporate Asia range within one account, let's say. Previously I trade Asia range on another account and just my higher time frame directional stuff on a separate account. But over the last 4 years, I just merged them because it really makes no difference. It just adds more context to the trading journal, to be quite honest. So here I can see a very easy place to want to put a stop loss. If I look at this just as a basic trade, I want to put my stop loss above the highs. That can easily be done. Can I reach 1 to 3 down by Asia? Absolutely, which means I could possibly even put my stop loss slightly higher. Of course, I can see definite reasons why I could lose this position. We are by that weekly 50 MA. So, of course, entering on a 1 minute break of structure would be very aggressive because the fact that we may well want to pop up to that weekly 50 MA. That's evident. However, it's an Asia range position, so you don't necessarily take into any of the higher time frame bias. However, if that doesn't align with what you want to do, then simply don't take that position. The other area I do see on here as a potential Asia range would be here. However, that's one of those where it you have to understand, well, where have we truly broken structure from? And it's quite difficult because more often than not, I would look to refer to the first order block above or below Asia for an Asia range. So I wouldn't be surprised if price gave a 1 minute break of structure and looked to short there. The only thing for me personally to look to take that type of position is look at the difference. The range isn't as great. So we're gonna go down in terms of your stop loss placement. I just see all of these areas in the market where price just may want to come back up to. So therefore I can't do something like that. Therefore, for me, it's very easy where I want to take that position from. It's going to be up at those highs. So I'll keep that on there anyway, just to monitor it, but I can't take that. The range is just too small based on my stop loss placement. So that's what I'd like to do for an Asia range. In terms of the long position, of course, you guys know, just like on the DXY, start of the week, want some key structure or just a structure point to be broken based on structure on that 15 minute if we can't locate it on the 4. So again, lower low, lower high, lower low, and then we've got that kind of in between level here where this breaking of that would of course provide us with a couple of question marks whether or not we'd like to take that. So for me personally, if I get a break of this structure point, I recognize here I'm probably going to have to be Well, you've got the choice really, whether you want to be aggressive or not. For me, what this could be is just a deeper pullback down into this area to then potentially create that lower low. So at this area, if there isn't a 15-minute order block, or even if there is, I think it would be wise to wait for a bullish 15-minute engulfing candle. And again, you just restart the process, and that then creates with the same type of trading scenario that we want. Then price comes back, it's then up to you. Look for a lower time frame shift, look for another order block on the 1 minute or the 5 minute time frame, and then off you go to the races, looking to take that position. So all of the same kind of stuff. I like it. But with that said, the longs are based on the fact that we get a bullish 4 hour candle close first and foremost, because we're using this 4 hour order block that hasn't yet been solidified. So, excuse me, nothing for me until I get that 4 hour candle closure. Unless, of course, we get that, then price comes back down. Then I on the 15, then I will look to take the position based on this aspect from the 15-minute time frame. Um, what else can we say about GCAD? So that's the shorts based on an Asia range. Of course, the best area to take the short position is up at those highs for daily refined, 4 hour refined, 15 within there already sat waiting for us. So GCAD, when it gets there for the short, I'm gonna have to be, well, I don't have to be, but I think it would make sense to be quite aggressive. You'll see, look how far beyond the EMAs we are. And I like being in that position where price should already be looking to reject those EMAs. Now, the fact would be looking to trade above them. It just gives you such confidence to say, right, for the weekly, look how far above I am it. So I have all the reason for price to want to gravitate towards it. Let's hope then on the daily time frame, we excuse me, we've got that at least that 12-hour trading period where we'll be looking to reject that daily candle as well, daily 50 MA, and of course the 4 hour is the same thing, but on the 4 hour time frame. So yeah, I like the shorts a lot, but I recognize we're a tremendous way away from that. And I think it would be wise to try and attempt to take that long position to take price back up there. So just when price is ready, I feel that we'll be up for taking a decent long position on GCAD. So I'm going to put some more alerts there just to double check. Don't miss a thing today, and I'll put one when it starts to come back. So alerts are packed on GCAD. But yeah, I like GCAD a lot. Blimey, we're already on GCAD. Jeez, sorry, Boris. Um, GJ looks just like GCAD, to be honest, without the 4 hour order block too. So we're waiting to see how that 4 hour candle closes. Of course, we're getting that bullish move now. GCAD, well, I do like the fact that we've got a nice trading range, got that weekly order block up at the highs that price is rejecting, got that daily order block down at the lows that price is rejecting, hadn't had to really do too much to GJ in terms of the chart analysis to shift the EMAs. And we're still kind of operating in that higher time frame range, hoping for that for GJ to come back slightly more, for us to get the position down at the lows. I think it would make good sense. But regardless of that, trading out of that daily order block that price is holding. So for the moment, GJ looks pretty similar to GCAD, where I'll be looking to take that long position, where of course the higher time frame shorts from right at these highs will look quite nice as well. Let's see. I hope that price just crashes through this 15-minute order block, because I was inclined to look for a potential Asia range, just like on GCAD as well. So basic price action structure, it was a low created, lower high that then created, let's say, a lower low. Price came back up, lower high, but there is no 15-minute order block here for me to look to take. So this area is very much so in the middle of nowhere. So let me get rid of that now. It's just me half asleep in the morning. Let's see if price holds this area come London Open. Be quite interesting to see if we do get a 1 minute break of structure. And then how I'll probably be looking at that is we've had this move, price come back up, 1 minute break of structure, look for the short down. Whether or not I think that I'll be looking to take that immediately would be a different question, because I'll have to decipher what I prefer, GCAD or GJ for the Asia range. And for me personally, well, that's aligning quite nicely with this one, which I can't take. So probably GJ would be the favorite for an Asia range if price holds it. If it doesn't, even better, to be honest, because all that means is price is now doing what we forecast it to do, break up, pull back down, look for the longs, using that higher time frame points of interest again, as we haven't really had to change much over the course of the weekend. Still no 4 hour order block. Yeah, in fact, let's put that one in. That would make sense. The first 4 hour bullish order block in a while coming from GJ. So we'll plop that on the system there and we'll see what we have. Cool. I think that looks average at best. Yeah, nothing really has changed. No 15-minute available in there at all. So it doesn't make too much of a difference. So if price breaks, comes back down, gonna need to see bullish engulf or bullish candle deliver me with a 15-minute order block, and I'll simply start the process again. So really, really ooh, much of the same that we have going across the pairs. And of course, the shorts, based on the 4 hour order blocks, of course, right up at the highs. I'm not going to put this one in as a result of it. Okay, fair to say. Excuse me, my mistake. We are within a 4 hour order block just here that is refined from a daily that I failed to put on this morning. So let me put this in the 4 hour time frame now, make that bigger, put that across all the charts, and we'll see how that looks like just so. And then, of course, 15-minute order blocks coming out of that area. Nothing at the moment. So, of course, then again, bearish 15-minute candle closure. Give me a 15-minute order block, start the process, and we'll start from scratch all over again. So, that's what we've got at the moment on GJ. Fairly solid plan, I'd say. Wait for the break, pull back, 15-minute order block to be created, lower time frame break structure, off we go. And then up at the highs, exactly the same, just the inverse operation. So, that's GJ. AU. I better give these a bit of a flag. So we'll give you a green. We'll give GJ green. Why not? And AU. Okay, AU. All right, so we are still operating within that higher time frame weekly order block, but unfortunately, for me, I am seeing a long on AU that could well materialize quite soon. I won't be able to take that long personally, but I definitely like the long setup. So if we go higher time frame analysis, of course, weekly order block price failed to close above that weekly 50 weekly order block, rejected with a slight wick to the high, nothing dramatic. However, more importantly, we have rejected it. Then using that weekly bearish candle from last week, we've got a daily order block. So of course, looking for a short position, the best short's going to come from those highs. Refine that daily order block down. Here we are within the 4 hour, pretty much where price was hanging around for the majority of last week anyway. So if price comes back up to those highs, of course, it's going to be a short position for me with it pretty much. If there is a 50-minute order block up at those highs there you see, it's probably going to be a 1 minute break of structure for me. Have my stop loss above the highs, and then I'll be looking to take that very, very aggressively as a result of having to wait for price pretty much to get all that distance anyway. Now, the importance, the long position. I do feel like a long is of course have to happen for me to take the short. So if you guys are looking to stay long, I think AU is probably one of the best looking longs at the moment. We've got that structure point in the market, so we'll go basic price action like so. Structure point in and around this area, break of structure, pull back into this low for the long continuation. I think that makes sense. In terms of the shorts coming from the area, well, again, Asia range looks average, looks pretty good to be honest. Let's make this bigger because there's nothing really else to discuss on the other time frames. Aside from the fact that on the daily time frame, let me bring that into consideration. So we made a high, higher low, higher high. So on the daily time frame, we're at a very important position in the market. Hence why we've got that bullish structure on the chart. Now, if we have a look at that bullish structure from the daily time frame, look where price is. So if price doesn't break this area, then of course we will still remain bullish on the higher time frames. Hence why I'd be looking for a long position. I think longs do really, really make sense. So if we make the 15-minute time frame slightly bigger, for us to understand why or how. So why can I not look at this as an Asia range first and foremost? We've definitely had a low created from there. However, my range, based on where would I love to put, I'd love to put my stop loss around about there. My range down to Asia lows is far too small, so I can't take that. Taking this kind of position is far too risky when I have all of this area above, hence why that Asia range is going to have to go for a miss. For me, it doesn't make sense. However, of course, just like all positions, you will see a reaction from a 15-minute order block. That's fair to say. So, as I said, best looking position. We have tapped into that 15-minute order block. So, scroll your eyes for a moment. And there it is, the lowest and only 15-minute order block that is available. Price is tapped in and we have a rejection from it. So, it's exactly what we want to see. Price broke up into a 15-minute order block, rocketed off. And then, as a result of that, the only 15 is here back to most recent price action. Look at that for perfection. So this is the type of position that I would take a limit order on previously. Absolute lows in the market from a bullish point in the market. Look to take price to the high. So it makes good sense. However, because we know about structure, what I'm going to say is, of course, that's a structure point, but what makes better sense? Just by eyeball, I'm going to look at it like this. For a long position for anyone, I think if you were to wait for that to be broken, pull back into an area, no order block behind, unfortunately. So you would then need to wait for one of some sort, either a 5 or a 15, 5 being incredibly aggressive, something that I don't do. But I can understand why that position would make good sense. So you'd be looking for something like that. And I think that would be a nice looking trade if you don't take into consideration the fact that we're in that weekly order block looking for price to roll bearish out of it and just understand that any move, any pullback could just be after a low, lower high. So manage that effectively for potential lower low. The fact that you've got the daily 50 MA below gives me the incentive to believe that potentially price could just roll in towards that daily 50 MA and then start rejecting it. But it is nice to see that the daily 50 MA is doing a job. Not, I wouldn't say at the moment, but price is getting ever closer to it. So if we can get that daily 50 MA to be broken to the downside at some point, then I think we're definitely in for that higher probable short position on AU, which would look really, really nice. So yeah, that's AU for the moment. Nothing for me in terms of longs. In terms of the shorts, it's just one that I'm gonna wish you all well if you are taking the long, and I wouldn't be able to take the long myself, but I'll definitely be in on the shorts with you all, I promise. So that is AU. Nice looking pair both ways. If I had another account to trade, then maybe I'd mess around on the AU longs, but unfortunately. I think 3 accounts is enough. So weekly time frames. What do we have here on EU? So looking for some similarities with AU. Weekly order block taking price out. We like that. Rejection last week. Beautiful bearish engulfing candle. Breaking one, two, three, four. A month's worth of price action taken out in 1 week. That's what we want to see. That's then giving us a bearish order block as well. But we're not going to put that on the chart. It's just going to clog it up. We have to refine those areas down anyway. And then once refined, we can see this daily order block just about available right there like so. So waiting for price to come up to that for a high probable short position. What I do like, the difference here on EU compared to AU is that I can take a long here because I'm a little bit further away from that. In fact, no, there is a weekly order block just here. Oh, I could be out of longs as well, to be honest. We'll have to have a look. But I'll analyze it in both directions anyhow. So down at the lows, daily order block. So of course, seeing the reaction here, it doesn't really make too much sense to me at all. We're not at an imbalance on the daily. We're not really even at an imbalance of the weekly. Yeah, we did close on that imbalance, but in terms of looking for rejection now from it, I don't really think that there is a reason for price to want to turn around just yet. So down at these lows, of course, if you're looking at the highs and lows, high probable areas, daily order block where price was pushed towards the upside. And it is the only available daily order block there. So when you start refining that order block down, 4 hour order block was within there, right in the equilibrium of price. Don't talk about it in much, But if an order block refined and you refine that and you're in the center of the order block, then of course it's just a confluence for you to start looking to trade from that area. Simple as that. Now, why that 4 hour order block? So we can see from here, higher high created. Of course, that's why this order block is now available. However, price came back down, looking for that higher low, higher high continuation. And of course, we've had a rocket from that area. So if EU comes down to here, 4 hour order block, of course, we'll be looking for a turnaround to take price slightly higher. The difference or the difficulty I have is what order block. This one is based refined from the daily. So I would be more inclined to actually utilize this one, aside from the fact that this is just based on the 4 hour time frame only. Let me just double check we're not in. Yeah, and that daily order block, that in fairness, once was there, is now mitigated. So they'll both get the same treatment, to be quite honest. It's just this daily order block is brand spanking new, therefore expecting when price comes into that order block for us to have a little bit more liquidity in my area as a result, in this area, as a result of that order block actually being fully available. Now, where are we on the 15-minute time frame? Here and now, what would I be willing to do? Well, first and foremost, I like the Asia range kind of setup initially. However, I can see clear reason why that's not going to be great. Asia's available here. And of course, price action to begin the session, we are looking quite bullish. So I think looking for just a 1 minute break of structure based on previous price action making a low, just a 1 minute break here for a short could be quite risky on EU. It's risky on all pairs, but I don't think it looks as good, let's say, as GCAD, for example, or even GJ. So I'm not liking that short myself, I'll be honest. It's unfortunate there's no higher time frame bias to really support that short either. So at the moment, I'm just going to have that order block really as a structure point in the market based on the fact that price did make a break from there. So what I'll do is simply put that as a structure point. Makes good sense. And then what I'll have to see is if price can come into that order block. I shouldn't have taken it off, to be honest. Where was it? If price comes into that order block, let's say then price gives me something, then here I can be quite aggressive on the short back down. So I'll keep it on there. And to the flip side, of course, if you get the break out of that area, pull back, then I can understand why you guys might want to look for a long position. But I think based on the range that I have to that weekly time frame, if I put that on just here like that, so I can get a good idea of where we are. So that's weekly. Let's just call it that for now. Just there. All right. So cool. Could I take a long position? Do I have good enough range? Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. I mean, I don't have a reason to take a long from here at the moment. What I'd like to see is price break up then, as I've said, and come back. If there's a 15-minute order block right down at the lows, there's not. So, of course, we run the risk of having, of course, Asia being filled to the lows. So, first and foremost, the way that you'd mitigate against that is just wait for that bullish engulfing candle, allow yourself to have that 15-minute order block, and then you really do have a reason to trade. So no immediate longs for me. I can definitely see where the better long positions are going to come from. So nothing in a hurry unless you get some significant breaks of structure to show the intent of the start of our trading week going ahead. So we'll have a look to see how that plays out, but nothing immediate just yet for me. We'll put an alert just here to see how and if we get decent reaction, and I'll have an alert crossing down to see if we can have that type of scenario coming to fruition. So that is EU. Could be a bit of a patient week, is what I'm thinking at the moment. GU. Okay, GU, where are we with GU? So let's have a look at GU now. Okay, so wow, look at that. Tremendous bearish weekly engulfing candle. Perfect. It's pretty much on the back of the fact that DXY led with that bullishness that we were looking to see. We had it. We did our best to capitalize on the cross pairs. I haven't gone over my results to be fair to give a good a statement for you guys, but I think it was a good week. Let me have a quick look. So I had a loss to finish the week off. So two, three losses, three profits, and I think one break even or two break evens. One of them's not filled out to be fair. But yeah, if I'm seeing three losses, excuse me, three wins, one, two, three losses, and that could be two break evens, that's not bad at all. So we did all right. Moving forward, so GU coming out of that order block, of course, weekly order block is now created as a result of that. Again, not going to put it on the chart, just reflect the area down. And here we are on the daily. So again, the shorts are looking good, but we are away from the shorts. I want to see if we can jump into a long position to capitalize on potential DXY weakness from that higher time frame point of interest. However, I've just recognized we've closed below that weekly 50 MA, which ju does make the shorts even more favorable. The fact that for the whole week, we're going to be expecting price to close below that weekly 50 EMA. So it's all good news for the shorts. Now, the longs, of course, become slightly trickier because initially we're going to be trading into a weekly 50 MA where we are actually already expecting a rejection from it at some point with no idea when that's going to come. But if then what we have to rely on is structure and setup first and foremost on all time, well, 4 hour and 15-minute time frame, in my opinion, most importantly. And that's taking a position in the immediacy, because as you can see, once we start to refine areas down, price is neither here or there. Price hasn't come to this 4 hour order block at the lows. It hasn't, okay, it's tapped into that 4 hour order block that was actually the bullish engulfing or just the bullish candle. Let's have a look. If I double back myself to give myself reasons why this could also make sense. No, we've not. No, I'm keeping that off the market. Um, Nothing yet, as you can quite see. Let's have a look to see how we could make some things make sense. Let's go to the 15 to see what we have. So I like the Asia range here. The reason behind that is Asia to the left filled perfectly by that wick. You see how Asia gets filled? We like to see it. Now, based on structure, we've had a low in the market that has broken structure points. Therefore, once we return back to that high, 1 minute break of structure for me, I'll look for the short down. Now I'll just have to manage my range to see what makes sense. So where would I love to place my stop loss? Above that wick, above that area would be good. And then down to those lows. So for me, that is probably one of the better looking positions that I would like to take today based on the Asia range. So we're also trading alongside immediate structure, which we like. Of course, no secrets, it's old structure, but what we can see, there is a clear 15-minute break, 15-minute order block, and previous Asia that could give us the risk of being filled. We can cover it, and it's already been filled. So basic structure on the 15 for that Asia range. I quite like it. So I'll have some alerts crossing down and see how we get on. In terms of other positions where you guys know down at these lows, I think would be the best area to be waiting for. Let's just have a look to see what develops. If anything happens before that, I want to see a break. I got to see a break of immediate structure points, then pull back into an area just here, which there is no valid area just yet. We would start that process based only on the fact that we've broken structure to the upside. And then as a result of not having any 15-minute order blocks here, we're going to have to wait for one. And you guys know already, I know it's boring, 15-minute engulfing or bullish candle, and then 15-minute order block, price comes back down into the area. Then you're free to take it as you wish, 1 minute shift, and then off you go. So no longs, particularly not from an area that hasn't confirmed itself just yet. So better area here, break up, pull down to consider this type of setup. But that definitely would be a reversal looking trade, and it would certainly only be based on the 15-minute time frame. Down at these lows, I think it'd be slightly different. Still would be looking for this type of scenario, but you have the confluence, right? And that's what we're trying to do, trade with confluence. The reason for that, if I zoom out, we can see price just moved off perfectly from that area. So if price wants to return, then that's where we want to grab some liquidity in and around this area, even on the 15 zoomed out like that. You can just see, well, not a lot happened. Just we had price move from this area, and that's fine to see. And what I mean by that is that's kind of saying, well, we should also have been looking for a long position here because price moved from that area. We don't just take positions in the middle of nowhere. We tried to build the confluence first and foremost, and then we go from there, right? So that's what I've got at the moment. I think GU looks good for the week ahead. Nothing immediate, but we know how we're going to manipulate the markets moving forward. So I think that's nice. I'll consider the Asia range as and when it gets there, see what else starts to materialize for itself, and then we'll go from there. So that's GU. UCADs, of course, UCAD. If GXY is looking slightly bearish and potentially there could be a bearish short or just a short on UCAD. Weekly order block up at the high, supported by the weekly 50 MA. Price isn't there just yet. Now, when refine areas down, for me personally, UCAD, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere. Daily time frame, nothing really to speak about apart from the fact that price has started now fully broken above that daily 50 EMA. So we're looking to reject it and then push back toward the upside, potentially into this refined area on the weekly time frame. Excuse me, on the daily time frame, this daily order block that's available up at a high. So let me put an alert up there somewhere. Now, that's honestly what there is for the daily time frame. So the 4 hour time frame really is where it starts to kind of kick off a little bit. And that's the thought at the moment. So down at the lows, of course, the best looking long position, 4 hour order block that's available. However, what I can see on UCAD is the 4 hour order block is just respecting really, really nicely. And what we have. So price broke up, 4 hour order block, price broke up, 4 hour order block came in, off it went, didn't return. So this is the only area that hasn't returned just yet. Now, 4 hour bullish engulfing candle, order block tapped in, off it went, order block again, tapped in, off it went. So really trying to, I feel like I'm a little bit behind you, Cab, but only because the pullbacks aren't really providing the entry criteria. It's just pulling back and it's going. So it's respecting the setup for sure, but the entry, if you're looking for price to move away then come back, UCAD just doesn't have the time for that at the moment. It's just doing its own thing. So that was last week, however. Nevertheless, we've had a 4 hour order block that price has, if I join it correctly, yeah, price has now tapped into. So I'm just gonna make it slightly smaller, clean up the chart a little bit, and then we'll go from there. So 4 hour order block, what's price action doing? Well, of course, immediately we are very bullish. So I think the best thing to do on UCAD, just looking at the 4 hour time frame, let's see if UCAD's going to do something special, i.e., can see an area in the market where price is failing to break above or below. It makes good sense because we're bullish coming into the area. We're approaching the weekly 50 MA, 4 hour order block and the daily 50, excuse me, and the DXY is also at an area that wants to roll short. So you can understand why we're getting a bit of a hold up on the UCAD. So me being Mr. Conservative for our candle closure, and of course, with the closure, you then wait for price to pull back for the short. That would make good sense. Now we can go to the 15 to understand the conservative method or the aggressive take. So based on 15-minute price action and structure, still very much so bullish. Now the only thing here is I'm trying to decipher, and in doubt, I just will play it the easier way. So either we're saying this was a higher low for a failed higher high. That's one way. Or we're saying price, let's start from here. Higher high, break of structure, first low, failed to make a higher high. So therefore, this confirms that this could indeed be a lower high before then looking for a lower low. It's a new week, so it's difficult, right? But that's, of course, the thought process. So what I've done, instead of guesswork. Just call it a structure point. Therefore, would I be looking to take a long position on UCAD from this area? Well, if we put a 15-minute order block in there and we can understand and try to make a picture about why we should. Could it be an Asia range? First and foremost, no, not broken structure from this order block. So therefore, I wouldn't be looking to take a long from it. How else would I consider taking a long from it? Well, if I see that here is a structure point in the market and price breaks that structure point and pulls back, lower time frame break of structure, then would I take a long position? Potentially, but probably not because I know we're trading out of that 4 hour order block. So why would I want to take a long into a 4 hour order block where pretty much this could be the best move to the or the better area up at the highs refined to actually be what could then be a low in the market created, followed by a lower high, followed by a lower low continuation. So when in doubt, I'm now going to say, well, hold on a moment. So if I wouldn't take the long, how would I take the short? The better way, break that structure, then pull back, look for a short quite aggressively. Or the worst case scenario is price comes right back up. There is a 15-minute order block there anyway. However, what I'd look to do is wait for that bearish engulfing or bearish 15-minute candle, start the process all over again because it is an older order block. And then once price returns at that stage, and I'll be aggressive to take the short back down. So it's not that I don't want to take a long on UCAD, but I feel that because of this order block, then of course I want to be trading alongside the order block, and we'll go from there. However, if price then, of course, breaks that order block, then it's a different kettle of fish, right? It's everything but in the inverse. Break up at the 4 hour, pull back into the 4 hour, and off we go towards the upside. However, then we'll be trading into the weekly 50 MA, into that weekly order block where we have the range to do so. That's fine. So it's one of those. Again, we've got to be quite dynamic with these pairs this week because everything looks, particularly how I think we read the market, everything looks quite approachable, right? But you have to have a plan, or else you're just going to get caught out too many times before then making your money back. So that's my plan on UCAD. It's going to be a 4 hour candle close in either direction. I think would be best up at those highs without a 4 hour close. Then I will consider it, to be honest, but I would have to look at the DXY. And what I mean is, if price doesn't break these lows and come straight back, what I call the worst case scenario, then would want to see at least that bearish engulfing candle. In fact, I need to see it in order to have any real reason to take that short. But what I do like, good confluence down towards the daily and the 4 hour 50 MA for the day. And of course, always playing havoc would be that weekly 50 MA where the frightening thing would be, are we going to tap into it first and foremost, then give the true move? But it's one of those. Have to wait for the entry criteria. Better still to even wait for the setup to develop. So that's you, Cal. As I say, I'm trading with you guys all week anyway. So if I'm looking at something in particular, I will let you all know. That's a promise. And then finally, UJ. UJ. So UJ, what do I have on UJ? So, price within a weekly order block, looking to go short. That's fair to say. We're fine within this weekly order block. Then, of course, we're in that daily time frame now. Also available, hasn't been tapped just yet. Looks good in terms of if we say we're in a range as we had. Price came in, broke the range. This is what I'm looking for on the 4 hour time frame. Let's say on UCAD, pull back up. Look for the short, makes good sense. Down into the daily and the 4 hour 50 MA where price is now respecting. So I like the short from up at these highs. And then refine that 4 hour order, refine that daily order block down. We have the 4 hour right there up at the high. So again, it's a nice place where you want to be shorting from. Don't mind UJ at all. What UJ is telling me at the moment is potentially the DXY has a bit more legs towards the upside before looking to short the DXY. Even before looking to short US dollar CAD, potentially it's going to pull up slightly higher, and that's what we want to see, right? So it makes sense at the moment. I do have an Asia range on UJ. I wouldn't, would I take that? I don't think that's the best looking Asia range. But what we can say, if we just start with the Asia range first and foremost, well, what's price action doing? It's difficult, right? It's difficult to say, well, higher high, higher low. You can't really do it. So it's one of those where if first order block below Asia, no, it's not that. It's a bit of a tricky one, UJ. I mean, the basics of it is that we have had a break of structure to the left. That's fair to say. Price comes down into the area, look for the break of structure, look to take price higher. Would I take that? First and foremost, where would I put my stop loss? Where would I want to put my stop loss? Around about there. I think that could work out. 15-minute order block, that's mitigated already. No reason to come back. Just that wick. Could do something like that. I don't think it's the best looking Asia range, but again, would I take it? Would I take it? To start the week off with an Asia range. I'm not gonna say no. We'll have a look to see what materializes first. The fact that we're getting a bearish move anyway on UJ suggests that the other Asia rays are potentially on the way anyway. Yeah, so we have to have a good look. That's looking quite nice, GJ now. Sorry to skip. GU, not quite there. UCAD, nothing. UJ. Okay, so the only thing I have was GJ at the moment. So let's give that a quick ping so I don't forget it. And then back to UJ. So what else do we have? That's pretty much it. From the highs, higher probable short position. And the annoying thing is when price moves like that, what we have to then look to do if I bring us to the 15 in terms of looking for longs when price does those types of moves, it's isolating an area, first of all, like we've done here, and then expecting for price to come back in, break that structure, then pull back. That's the only way we can really have the solid guarantee that where we're trading from makes sense. Because when price moves like that, we don't have any higher time frame bias really supporting us. Because the 4 hour time frame, it looks rubbish, to be honest. It's not doing much at all. So in terms of taking long positions, UJ, the only thing that I would consider in the immediacy would be an Asia range long. And then if price does come into that area and breaks structure to the high, then of course that would validate that point of interest for me if price then wants to return. So then I'd be looking to take long continuations just alongside what the 4 hour time frame is doing at the moment. But as I say, because it's a new week, we don't know what that if that 4 hour time frame is even useful. It's all last week's price action, so we'll have to have a see what's going on. So that's what I've got, team. Is I think that's a lot to look at for a start of the week. A couple of Asia range in the mix. GJ probably in the mix. Yeah, I like GJ. Um, so yeah, it's a good little bunch, I think. So I'll leave it there just before I go, since Boris is on. Anything you're looking at, Boris? Do you trade Asia range personally?
No, I haven't traded in a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen any clean and clear ones for a long
Yeah,
time either. And when
but
I'm in,
I very like GCAT
yeah,
long. Try to long
yeah.
again
Nah,
this
that's
week.
like for me.
It
If
should
it,
happen. It should happen on Friday, but it didn't. So it's gonna
yeah,
happen this week. Definitely.
yeah, you got to grab
But
that money back.
from the highs, absolute shorts. But until we get there, like you said, it's a 220 tip range. So
Yeah,
I
literally.
wanna take 60 or 80 out of that longs for sure.
Nah, for sure, for sure. Nah, I guess it, as I always say, in doubt, just wait for the higher probable setup, which we always do. So we'll go from there, everyone. Boris, as always, thank you for joining me. Back tomorrow
Thank
morning
you.
with you guys all day again today. So we'll see what we got. All right, team. Thank you, Boris. Have a good trading day.